Hey everybody, and welcome to the laziest show on the internet, the Northern Countdown. What is he doing?
Why did you stop?
I'm laughing. And as always, so I'm none other than your friendly Soda Needs a Shower, joined as only by another Ben in the wall, and joined by Ms. 50 Geeks. How's it going?
Did you just call me Miss?
I meant to, yeah, I was going with the Miss Marvel thing because of the mask, and I meant to say Ms. 50 Costume Geeks, and I forgot the costume.
That's the whole point of the show, Mr. Soda.
How you all doing?
Doing well.
Stoic.
Oh, I see that. But seriously, is that a Miss Marvel mask?
No, it's actually.
Oh, it's your Arrow mask.
No. Keep going.
Nightwing?
Ben?
Zorro.
You just said Zorro.
Arrow.
Oh. Well, it's from. Well, you're both wrong. It's from the Umbrella Academy.
Oh, I didn't know you had an Umbrella Academy thing. Cool. I like that show.
Me too.
Ever seen it?
You should, man. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, that's not why we're here. Well, actually, kind of is. We're kind of here to talk about TV shows again, but this time it's got a point, and we'll let 50 introduce it once he unmutes himself.
I had to move the table. Sorry. Anyways, so over the past couple of weeks, I've been getting numerous complaints by the majority of our fan base, namely my mom.
Yeah.
Our topics have been way too niche and specific and very one area centered. She wanted something more broad. That's just one way of saying she wanted more ideas for things to put on her online shop. So, so one of the suggestions that she demanded we go with is top 5 TV shows with good costume design. And the way I took it as it's both outfits, clothes, literal costumes, but also like the way I decided to take it is suits, like full-on body suits with prosthetics and everything. That's at least how I designed my list.
Okay, I like for me, I went more the Oscar route. Like I went for like the whole package, the look, how well it fits, like that type of stuff. So
yeah, but going the Oscar route could also hint more towards makeup as well.
It could, and you could definitely use that in one of my picks for sure.
I think that's likely could be a different topic. So that's why I went with the way I went.
Well, shall we just start right into it then, 50?
Might as well. I'm going first. And the way I designed my list is, I had 2 major criteria for my list. Guidelines, if you will. The first is, how well a costume looks and how it's well designed, but also when the characters are not wearing a lavish, dare I even say it's superhero-like costume, when they're just wearing what is known called civilian clothes, is how well those clothes reflect that character's personality. And also, sort of a minor guideline for my list is if, for whatever reason, the show would go in the direction of a period piece, how well the costume department can perfectly recreate a specific period of history, which is why my number 5. And technically speaking, my most recent one on my list is WandaVision.
Oh,
they do go through several decades of television, and they're able to style the characters that also the characters stay the same. Their costumes change. They're able to sort of style that in the style of the specific decades that they're trying to represent. And also that Scarlet Witch costume and the Agatha Harkness costume at the finale looks really great.
I-50's mom.
I'm happy, Mom.
Yes, thank you for mandating a topic for us.
Hey man, we have to listen to our fan.
If you're not going to listen to your parents, listen to your fans.
Or in 50's case, one and the same. Okay.
Anything else to add? 'Cause
No, WandaVision is it made it on my honorable mention just because the latter half of the TV show does take place modern times. I'm trying to exclude modern shows from my list where it's like takes place today because I kind of feel like that's a cheat in a way because they pretty much dress like me. But for the first half alone, for all like the 50s, the 60s, the 70s stuff, it made it on my honorable mentions.
Well, I have a point to counter argue your reasoning you just give. But I'll say my number 3 on my list.
Okay, that's fair. Like that's what I kind of how I built my list. I'm not trying to do shows that take place today.
Again, wait till you hear my number 3. That's all I'm gonna say for now.
Oh, totally fair. Ben, your turn.
It's a great number 5, man. I mean, yeah. For what they did in that sitcom era, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also for my list, I begrudgingly stayed away from animated shows because I felt like that would be cheap.
Yeah.
Even though, speaking of sitcoms, the costume designs for the Flintstones, really creative, but again, animated. So
yeah,
that's more animation than costume design. Well, I suppose costume design could be a term used for that, but okay.
You know what they say? 50. Yabba dabba doo.
That just sounded like an Imagine Dragons song.
Fuck you.
Was that aimed at me or at Ben? I just want to.
At Ben.
Okay. So if you in the audience and potentially some people on this panel have not seen my latest episode of Greatest Show in the Galaxy with Ben, just do a quick drinking game where try to figure out. Just take a shot every time the Seinfeld sound effect comes up. Just do your sound effect.
No, because you'll meet in fucking 5 minutes. Anyway.
That one.
All right.
Actually, Ben lasted almost 9 minutes. So.
Oh. All right. Yeah, my number 5. Is a show that takes place in medieval times, but it's made a few years ago. It's a show Gallifant. They did a really good job with the costume effects. It felt like medieval times when you watched it. It felt like knights and kings, and it felt authentic.
Mm.
I never heard of that, but that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a show that people have been telling me I should watch. It's the one that does is part musical, right?
Yeah, 50, you would love that too, man.
No, thanks for putting it on my radar.
Yeah, it's on my list on Netflix. I just like a lot of things, just haven't had a chance to watch it.
Well, if it's on Netflix, then it's got to be on mine as well.
Yeah. Okay. My number 5 is all the way from Westeros. It's Game of Thrones.
But
okay.
Not a punt, but I had considered it, even though I only watched most of one season of it.
Mm. Well, okay then, 50.
So number 4 for me, I decided to go with the Arrowverse. But I haven't said anything yet.
Oh.
How do you think I feel about Game of Thrones?
I'm sorry. Go ahead with me.
But the specific show I wanted to go from the Arrowverse, like I know for like the Arrowverse as a whole, but specifically Legends of Tomorrow. Now you can punch.
Okay.
Well, if you want, you can talk about that because I did Arrowverse as a whole.
What position is it on your list, if I might inquire?
It is soon. It's soon. Not immediate, but it's rather soon.
So it's number 3.
Yeah, as long as it's not number one. Let's just go through your number 3, and we'll get to it number 4, and we'll get to it when we get to it.
Okay. So my number 4. They're making a movie about that. What?
Punt. I'm kidding.
Asshole. My number 4, they're making a movie about this. The movie does not look good. But the show was good for its time. The Monsters.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That was a show.
You didn't know that? Yeah, it was a 1960s TV sitcom.
What is the month? Can someone sell me on this show? What is the monster?
Okay, so the easiest way to describe it basically is it's like if you were to take like the Universal monsters, but you put them in suburban America in a sitcom.
That's more or less what I gathered from the name.
Yeah,
it sounds like a family sitcom of a family called Family Monsters.
Yeah, and the monsters themselves, it's like Herman Munster. Yeah, he's Frankenstein monster, but he's like a walking, talking dad joke. That makes sense.
So Ben.
Oh, and then one more thing. They had taken the niece, who's the only normal one in the family. Like, she's the only one without any talents, like any powers or whatever. And she's the one called the Freak.
What?
Yeah, it sounds like a mix of the Addams Family with Frankenweenie, if you've ever seen that one.
Yeah.
I didn't see the original Frankenweenie. I saw the animated one.
I would actually say a more apt would be comparing it to, oh geez, I just had it too. Don't you just hate it when you're thinking of something and all of a sudden it flies out your brain?
Yeah. It happens to me all the. Well, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You're sitting in a closed space staring at your computer. Where did you have time to see the silence?
I didn't get it.
Come on, man, the silence. Silence must fall. Never mind.
Not everyone's gonna give a Doctor Who reference.
But you, of all people,
dude, I just woke up.
What?
The Munsters. It's Addams Family meets the what? Oh, it's like, okay, Addams Family meets Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Oh, that's not the comparison I had in mind, but it'll work.
So did you want to ask me something, Fifty? You wanted to say something.
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's my number 5 because for that time they took the Universal Monsters and they made it into a believable TV sitcom. And they did a great job for that time.
Yeah,
now,
I haven't watched it since I was a kid, personally. But,
What you say it was good for the time. What time was it exactly? When?
64 to 66.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
It's very
A
of its
lot of creative sitcoms in that era.
right.
time.
It was like a sitcom golden age, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I am momently curious to see the movie. It looks not awful, but I am curious to see the movie.
Well, I mean, that's what you get when your movie is directed by a zombie.
That was appropriate.
What with the open zombies? They're not dead. They're not living. What are they?
I mean, come on! What's your number 4, Soda? Come on!
Okay, my number 4. It's actually a show I've only seen one episode of, but it's the newest show on my list. It debuted last year, and I feel based on the content, I'm probably still the foremost authority to talk about it. It's Young Rock.
Oh, of course.
So, Young Rock, for those who don't know, is a show talking about the formative years of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Part of it takes place during his childhood. It takes place during his teen years. Parts of it takes place when he enters professional wrestling. And like I said, I've only seen one episode, but the reason I am putting this on my list is because I have still seen enough from the show to determine they nailed a lot of things, especially when it comes to the look of the older professional wrestlers from his dad's day. Andre the Giant looks like Andre the Giant. Iron Sheik looks and acts like Iron Sheik. Like they dressed them to look exactly like the characters. They found actors to act exactly like those guys. Like they nailed it 100%. It also helps that The Rock is the producer on the show. But in terms of like the setting and the costumes, these guys nailed 1970s professional wrestling.
Can I ask you something? Who plays Andre?
He's not a well-known name. Just give me one moment.
Okay. I'm really curious because that's a pretty iconic person.
It is, and that's one of those roles. They would have had a hard time if they got somebody like a name to play him. Who plays Andre? It's a guy named Matthew Willig.
Oh, I was nervous for a second. You almost said Matthew Wilder.
Yeah, no, he played a henchman in Birds of Prey, the movie.
Okay.
That's probably his most well-known thing. Like he's just mostly bit actor, bit parts. But his biggest thing is Young Rock. Yeah.
That's actually a very interesting thing to have on your list because it actually ties into my number 3 because it sort of mirrors casual clothes, like I said earlier, civilian clothes, with the more theatrical looking costumes of wrestlers, right? I'm assuming.
Okay.
So
okay, well, let's go on to your number 3 then.
Well, my number 3, and the sort of counter argument to what you said earlier, actually, now that I think about it, might actually get punted, but Smallville.
Not on my list.
And my honorable mentions.
Yeah, and it's on my list because for a lot of the show, main character, who, spoiler alert, is Superman.
Wait, what? Are you telling me Clark Kent is Superman?
Yeah, why would someone named Superman be in a place called Smallville? Anyway, so when he's in his Clark Kent persona, for a lot of the show, especially in the early seasons, what is he wearing? Either blue shirt and a red jacket on top of it, or red shirt and a blue jacket on top of it. That's like perfect costume design, letting you know who this character is without being too heavy-handed with it. Now, you could argue that they got a little heavy-handed in later seasons, but still, when Arthur Curry shows up, spoiler alert, he's Aquaman, he's got an orange shirt and green trunks. Oliver Queen shows up, he's wearing green. Bart Allen shows up, he's wearing a lot of red, he's got a red backpack with a lightning bolt on it.
Yeah, Victor Stone does the same thing. Him, it's more like the muted colors of Cyborg. Yeah, I do like that. Whenever they introduce somebody that we know from the comics world, they try to modernize it, but still have enough hints who they are in their costume. Yeah,
and that's why it's such a major part of how I designed my list, because they used casual civilian clothes, modern day Soda, and yet still they found a creative way to make these characters unique and stand out. And even when Clark, there's the episode where Clark is exposed to red kryptonite, about halfway through the episode, he switches the red and blue outfit to a green shirt. Later in the episode, it transitions into a black leather jacket. So it's sort of symbolizes the descent into madness that Black Kryptonite does. And then there was that one season where they brought in Bizarro, and whenever you see Clark Kent with the blue shirt and the red jacket, that's Clark Kent. Whenever you see Tom Welling with the red shirt and the blue jacket, that's Bizarro. That's another great way to distinguish between the two. And just the costume design did a lot of really creative things with the outfits and the clothes of these characters, even the non-superpowered ones, that it actually made the show as special as it is. Yes, yeah, thank you. As far as my mom could care, he could wear nothing at all. The show would have been much better. But once they actually tried to do a slight transition into proper superhero outfits, it wasn't the traditional ones that we're familiar with. It was still basically just jackets and
familiar enough.
Yeah,
right? Familiar enough.
Even the ones that Cyborg wears, yeah, it's sort of leathery jacket, but it still has the same similar patterns to the Cyborg that we know from the comics. And then obviously in later seasons they went full on superhero costumes and capes and suits and whatnot. And I think that was also well done. And yeah, they even went back and dug up the old Superman Returns, Ray Palmer.
Brandon Routh.
Yeah, they dug up the old Brandon Routh costume used in the final episode.
Yes, however, the scene where we see Clark do this is a CGI suit.
Yeah, but when you see the physical suit, that is the costume.
I even like.
Look in the private chat, Ben. Look in the private.
I even like when he went on Matrix in season 9 and turned into Neo from the Matrix in the black trench coat and the
yeah, and it symbolizes his what he's feeling in that moment, because he's sad about. Was that the season where Lois goes MIA? And where the Kryptonians show up, or is that the follow-up?
No, yeah. With the younger son. Yeah, that is season 9.
So yeah, that black costume made sense because he's feeling bad, and he's losing Lois and losing everyone in his life. So yeah.
I like that season. I don't know about you, but I really like that season.
I like it too. Wasn't the best, but at least we finally got Jor-El and Lara together. No, wait, that was season 9. That was
9.
Was it 9 when Clark sees the vision of both of his parents?
No, that was 10. That was 10.
Young Jor-El, season 9, but Jor-El and Lara together was an episode 10.
Right.
It's interesting that he meets both his mom and his dad at several completely different seasons. No interaction between those two actors, and then they both show up in the same for one scene. They did a lot of really creative things with the Superman mythology in that show, and that's why it's one of my favorite shows. So
and one of my, he might top 5. He made my top 10 or top 5 favorite shows. I love that show.
It's my number 3 favorite show of all time.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, it is my number 3 on this list. So it says a lot.
I know I want exactly number 3 because my number 3. I'm assuming can I go?
Yeah, it's the spiritual sequel to my number 3, right?
The Everton General. Say what you want about the actual shows, but their superhero costumes, for the most part, were done excellently. From Arrow to Flash to Supergirl to Impact Legends of Tomorrow to Black Lightning. All the costumes were amazing in my opinion. What did you think about these costumes?
Yeah, Smallville tried to minimize the way because let's be real here, the costumes they look kind of ridiculous. They look great for comic books, but some of them look outrageous and outlandish. And Smallville tried very, very hard to tone it down a lot. The artists kind of did the opposite. They made the costumes close to the way they're supposed to look, but they also put a practical, real world spin on those costumes. They made them look so. Yeah, these are characters that were created in the 40s and 50s and 60s. If they were created now, this is what those costumes would have looked like. Just like the MCU, they look very practical, very military grade. They look like ready for battle, and they look ready to help the person in the costume fight crime, as opposed to hinder it because it's supposed to look cool, which works better for a comic book. And my opinion, out of those shows, the show that did the best costume design was Legends of Tomorrow, because that one really they went off the hook with the costumes. They had no filter. They knew that they were making a silly comic book show, and then they just committed to that idea 100%. And they brought the most obscure characters from the DC Universe canon, and then just translated them to screen beautifully. Even some of the more subtler costumes, like Jonah Hex, and even though it was a different show, but Constantine as well. Welcome back, Mr. Shaw. Had a good shower?
I wish.
Yeah.
Water since Tuesday evening. My building.
Moving on. Vixen's costume, Rip Hunter's costume, what's his face? Nate's costume. A lot of really interesting costumes on that show. And that's why it's not only my favorite show in the Arrowverse, it's also, in my opinion, the one with the best costume design.
Oh, one of the cool things about the Arrowverse in general is, like, I don't know if you guys covered this while I was taking care of business, but it's kind of the opposite of Smallville, where it's in Smallville, it's just like they tried to make it more simple, but there were still enough hints there that you knew who they were. Whereas in the Arrowverse, like, they made it their own, but they did what basically is their own version of the iconic costume and some of that. And I thought for the most part they pulled it off.
Yeah, that was not in the same way. So more or less.
The one costume that didn't really work for me, that actually Smallville did better, in my opinion, was the Hawkman costume.
Somehow I just knew you were going to go with Hawkman. I don't know why. It just maybe we're mentally connected better than we thought. But yeah, personally, I think that the Hawkman character in and of itself was a complete waste, especially compared to the Smallville version. The costume was also a big part of that. His costume, that is.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I think my favorite costume design in the Arrowverse, I think is the Green Arrow one. They're using the evolution year after year after year to what we finally got in season 7 or 8. Yeah, it's really cool to me.
Yeah,
I agree.
The Flash costume barely changes, but the Arrow costume, like you said, every season they seem to just improve it. And I even have one of the versions of the costume in my closet that I wore for a Purim a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I have like a statue of Oliver Queen, Green Arrow from the show, and yeah, it reflects where Oliver Queen is at that point in his life, and I like that.
Right.
Can we all just agree that it was such a good idea that they finally gave him the eye mask as opposed to just spray paint?
I agree.
And then I really like it that it was Barry who made it to begin with.
Yeah, me too. And as a scientist and chemist, he knew exactly how to make the mask properly, that it fits on his face. And Doesn't
And then it's funny, excuse me for a minute while I go off on something. It's funny for that moment he cared about secret identities. When he got to his own show, he doesn't give a shit about secret identity anymore. Everybody knows he's a fat.
The Flash or Arrow?
A Flash. Really.
Well, he cares a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it was only the people he's closest to that knows.
Yeah. Not the people. Not he didn't advertise it the way Oliver Queen did in some seasons of his show.
Okay, that's fair.
To the point where everyone in Star City knew exactly who the Green Arrow was.
Yeah, because he knew it was kind of stupid to have a secret identity after a while.
But that actually does follow Oliver Queen in the comics, I think. But in the comics, he also revealed who he was.
He also did that in Smallville.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a consistent thing with the Oliver Queen character, as opposed to someone like Superman or Batman that they cannot let everyone know who they are. Some characters can, not those two.
All right, Soda, you're number 3.
This is gonna be one of the more recent watches on my list. That 70s show.
Great pick.
Yeah,
I wasn't even thinking of that. Wow, that's good. It's really good.
Because that 70s show, it was a show that started in 1997, but you know what? It feels as 70s it gets, man. Like right down to the costumes, the hairstyles, the vehicles, the set design, the props, like everything of it is authentic as hell. Even some of the stuff they talk about pop culture and they bring in, it's authentic stuff. They went the whole 9 yards in this show, and it's one of the things that makes it a good show is how real it feels.
Yeah, and they never once committed to one specific year. It was like, the 70s.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because the last episode ends on the stroke of midnight on January 1st, 1980.
Yeah.
I am curious to see this 90s show that they're making.
They're making a 90s show?
Yeah, making, it's obviously called that 90s show. It's Red and Kitty are the stars, and it involves Eric and Donna's child, and we will be seeing all of the former cast except, of course, for Hyde.
I have to be honest. That's the one thing I'm kind of bummed out about. I understand why, but when I sit back and look at it, it was always Hyde and Kelsey as a standout of that show.
It's something's definitely gonna be missing.
As long as Kurtwood Smith is coming back as
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Red and Kitty have not changed.
And
I want to see Bob. I want to see where Bob's at because Bob follows trends. So I want to see him like with the freaking chain and the Flavor Flav stuff. I want to see where Bob's at.
Flames on his car.
Right.
Fun fact: did you know?
A big Backstreet Boys fan, I'm guessing.
Well, depending on what year that takes place, yes.
Well, if it's gonna follow the same model as that 70s show, it's no specific year. It's all the 90s.
Well, no. Like that 70s show actually had specific years. Like it started at a certain point and it followed that way. It didn't say like it wasn't quite like that 50.
Okay.
Okay.
But
and Gordon took place in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Bob will be on the side that we were on the break with Ross.
I hope to God they don't do that because this is how I'm going to react.
Makes sense, though. It would make sense. If you know that character, it would make sense.
It would, but if they say we were on a break, I'm going to riot.
Anyway, I was going to bring up something. Did you know that there is a sort of Israeli version of that concept? But instead of original characters, it's like this really famous, popular stand-up comedian, just doing a show about his life, and he's playing his father, and his son is playing him. And it's based in the '80s. And it's just called the '80s, which is how they renamed that '70s show, the Israeli version. And it's the '80s in the general area that he used to live in, and of course they didn't came up with the spiritual sequel, which was the '90s show for it.
We had that at the time of that '70s show with that '80s show, which only lasted like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
I did not even know that he attempted a set.
I remember watching, like trying to watch it at the time, and it's one of the worst versions of a show like that ever.
I know.
Yeah.
It's episodes, right? Yeah, isn't it weird our fascination as a species of things that happened 20, 30 years ago? Like
Wow,
back in the
I was gonna say
back in
we're
the
a similar time, a simpler time.
Yeah, I mean, but back in the '80s, everyone was just having the '50s nostalgia. In the '90s, everyone was having the '70s nostalgia. Now everyone, rather in the 2010s, everyone just had that '80s nostalgia. Now in the 2020s, everyone is looking for that '90s nostalgia. Can you imagine in like 2040 or 2050, people having nostalgia for the pandemic? Could you imagine that?
No.
Anyway, on that note, we should move on.
Yeah.
51 to number 2, my man.
All right, it's my turn. So yeah, my turn. Once upon a time.
Hey, no what? That's my number 2 too.
Yay! So I did say earlier that I had considered Game of Thrones for my list. Doesn't quite reach the same levels of quality and costume design as Game of Thrones, but Once Upon a Time did a lot of very, very creative costumes, especially for the villain, especially Mom, for Regina. Regina not only is my mom's favorite character, she's also her favorite dresser in that show. And again, when we talked about earlier in Smallville, how they adapted and modernized the Superman and superhero characters on the show, how they modernized Hook on the show, especially, and how they modernized several of the other characters who have been modernized in the show, and what they did with the modern era of the modern times versus the time before the Great Curse and all that, and like there's Peter Pan's costume, which was also re-updated in the. I know Ben doesn't like it, and I know he's gonna hate me for saying this, but the Underworld series, the Underbrook series, they took characters who died in their original fairy tale costumes and modernized their looks for current.
Interesting.
Even though I don't like that season, I'll agree that was a very cool choice they made for the costume design. And 50, you didn't mention probably one of the best costume designs. Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, I had him in my head. I was going to bring him up, and somehow I just got lost in the mix of all the things I wanted to get out of my head. So thank you for bringing that up. Rumpelstiltskin, my favorite character of the show, in my opinion, the best dresser. Second only to Hook and maybe Regina and Zelina.
And I like their line in season 3 when they were on Neverland. I believe it was Emma to Hook, or Hook to Emma. Hook was like, what do I look like in one of these movies? And Emma was telling him a description about what the animated Captain Hook looked like. It was just a nice little reference that made me laugh.
Yeah, and not really relative to costumes, but the digs that Emma keeps throwing at the character that she now knows to be real, but she watched their movies. Like she does a similar thing to Mulan, I think, and even when they bring up Tinkerbell, they're like, "Wait, she's real too?" And Hook was like, "Says the daughter of Snow White and Prince Charming."
Yeah, God, I love those.
What?
I don't know.
It was tough.
Hey,
Come on.
I don't know the show, so I've been able to contribute. So
So just be quiet. Let us geek out about this. Come on.
okay, sorry. Proceed.
You know, Ben, now with that brick wall setting and the microphone, you look more like Seinfeld than you've ever been looked before. All
What
you,
can
need is,
you do with that? What can you do with that?
all you need is the crazy hair that he's got.
Mm.
Had.
I look like Seinfeld now. Like, anywho,
There we go.
yeah, yeah, I mean, no, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, I agree with you, 50. A costume designer once upon a time worked great.
One of these days, I'm gonna get my mom a Regina costume for her birthday.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So, soda now, I believe. What's your number dose?
My number dose is I don't think any of you guys have seen the show, unfortunately, but you guys know the character. It's the Young Indiana Jones series. That is the one that falls into similar categories of stuff I've already chosen. Where this show spans the decades. Like the very first episode takes place in like the early 1900s, and it ends in the 1920s. I believe it is. It's been a bit since I finished the show, but anyways, every episode they revisit all these different historical eras, and everything is so authentic. You're believably watching Indiana Jones's adventures in, for example, ancient Egypt with T.E. Lawrence, or in communist Russia dealing with Tolstoy, or Indiana Jones and being part of the jazz age in the United States and meeting Louis Armstrong, or being part of the rise of Hollywood and meeting guys like Irving Thalberg. Like you believe this is all happening, and it's right down to the costume design and the production and everything, and everyone did a smash up job making you believe you were in the era you were watching.
And that is the most important part of the costume design in these types of shows.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And even the actors they got to play familiar characters even did a great job. So yeah. That's all I got to offer in my number 2 because I know you guys haven't seen any episodes.
You might not want to.
Is it as good as the movie still?
No, but it's they're TV movies, so you can take that for what you will. But honestly, like I just think to watch as a portal in time, it's a good watch. Me mostly, I enjoyed more the bonus features they made for the DVDs because they're like History Channel production documentaries on the subjects of the episode. So that's pretty cool.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
full of it.
So in a way, it was like Quantum Leap, in a way, right?
In a way, without the switching the bodies. And fun fact, Harrison Ford himself reprised his role as Indiana Jones for the bookends for one episode.
Cool.
And he had a
Nice.
beard because he was filming The Fugitive. Yeah. And then other than that, like they don't include them on the DVDs, but in the original release, they were bookended by like a 93-year-old old Indiana Jones with one eye.
Ooh, so he's gonna lose his eye in the next Indiana Jones movie, correct?
Sorry?
He's gonna lose his eye in the next Indiana Jones movie.
That's what a lot of people are wondering, if this is the movie he finally loses that eye.
Just
I don't think so.
please don't let it be a Flurkin again.
Oh, Jesus. Can you imagine? What the
I like that. I like that. Leave
Me too. I thought it was fun, and of course Nick Fury would be the kind of guy who would make something up.
Yeah, but see that's why I always took it. People were like upset that it was like, but he said he trusted somebody. I'm like, never trust a cat. What did you expect? But I didn't mean it like that when I said it. I meant it was funny for that situation. Just don't do it. Don't overuse that joke. That's what I'm saying.
okay.
Nothing worse than being a dead horse. multiple times in the same studio.
All right, so we ready for the honorable mention portion of the show?
He is, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I said earlier, Game of Thrones and Stranger Things.
Okay, Ben.
Okay. The Addams Family
The original.
and the original show. Smallville
Mm-hmm.
and Happy Days.
I have WandaVision and Deadwood.
Oh.
What?
All right, 50. You're number one.
Come
I
on.
told you we had the same number 150.
So I'm gonna stay in this incredibly hot costume for now. Ben, talk about your number two, Simon number one, and then I'll move on to my and Soda's number one.
Yeah.
My number one is Game of Thrones. I mean, it made me. You believe you're in restaurants while you're watching that show.
Agreed.
The costume design is so wonderfully done. The makeup is so well done, and yeah, what are your thoughts about it? Every time you
Another
listen
big
here.
thing is the world feels lived in. It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
a set. It doesn't feel like costume. It just feels authentic.
I also think filming on location does contribute a lot to that.
Yeah. And then, it's like Lord of the Rings. Like, every time I go to watch it, I'm just having to go back and visit that location.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't get through the first season, but I have to admit, the costumes look great.
Mm-hmm.
The costumes are like movie quality production.
Yeah. And they only,
Not a trucker.
Yeah, and I can already tell which one of the two people watching using that user wrote that question.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert: it's not my mom, but
And also, this is the reaction to Doctor Who, of course.
yeah, I didn't click on it because I was saving it. I was saving it for when we get to the number one. But
Sorry.
we're still talking about Game of Thrones here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. Whenever you guys want to talk about who, go ahead. I'm done.
All right, 50. Take it off.
You want to say some things because I also have some classic Who notes to go over. So
Yeah, okay. So again, this is another one falls under the same criteria. It's like you believe the worlds that they are visiting are lived in, feel authentic. When they go back in time, again, once again, era authentic costumes, you feel like you're in 18th century Victorian London. You feel like you're in ancient Pompeii. You feel you are where you are, and I always like Doctor Who's attention to detail when it comes to history.
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's small potatoes compared to what I have to say.
No shit.
Going all the way back to the 1960s, the fact that they were able to come up with costumes for the era of Kublai Khan when he did the Marco Polo episode. There's a reason that story is regarded as one of the best Doctor Who stories ever made. That unfortunately the BBC was stupid enough to let go. But we're not going to get into that at the moment. But yeah, the period accurate costumes. I don't think people give this show enough credit when it comes to the fact that they literally create an entire new world every single episode with period accurate costumes, with great prosthetics, with great alien looking costumes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a high budget, relatively speaking, high budget sci-fi movie every single episode. And the fact that they were able to continue that for 26 consecutive seasons with a few hiatuses thrown in there in the middle, and then they brought it back with a much bigger budget for the modern era of the show, and they went full on, spared no expense, to quote another guy, with as far as the costume designs. And again, not just the period accurate costumes, it's also how the alien looks, the big bulky suits, the way the get ready for this, Ben, the Sontarans look, the Slitheen, the Ook, the Jadoon, even some of the classic era aliens like the Axons and the classic era Cybermen and the Yeti, the Ice Warriors. I kind of leave out the Daleks because that technically isn't really a costume; it's more of a vehicle of sorts. But my favorite part about Doctor Who, and this is why I put one of the many reasons I put Doctor Who well above Star Trek, is because the Gene Roddenberry philosophy of making other aliens primarily revolves around just put some makeup on the actors and let the actors do the acting with their face.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times you see aliens from Star Trek, they just have a little squiggle on their forehead or a couple of dots on their cheek or a few lines on their nose. Yeah, good makeup, not good costume designing. The Doctor Who philosophy is just do not let budget get in the way of creative storytelling. And a lot of the times, especially in the classic era of the show, if the costume looks goofy or it's very noticeable that they were working on a strict budget, they just go ahead and make it a part of that species' entire biology. Like in the Sensorites, they have it's very clear, it's very obvious that they're just using rubber masks with no space for the eyes. Like you see eye holes, but you don't see the actor's eyeballs inside the eye holes. So they just came up with the idea that these guys just don't have eyelids. They have their eyes open all the time. And this type of stuff happens all the time in Doctor Who. Whenever there's a bit of a flaw in a design of a certain costume, they're like, no, that's just how the species looks like. That's what they're meant to be. That's what they're meant to be. And that's something that I really appreciate about the way costume designs work for Doctor Who. And we haven't even talked about the multitude of wardrobe changes that the main character goes through.
Agreed.
Like every Doctor is instantly recognizable through their costumes. I can't remember who said. I think it might have been George Lucas that said that the best characters can be recognized by their silhouettes.
Yep, that was his philosophy going into Indiana Jones.
Now, you can easily tell which Doctor is which by looking at the silhouettes. Partially for some of them because of their hair, particularly with Tom Baker and Hartnell and Tennant. But a lot of the times you can tell who they are by looking at their costumes.
Yeah.
And how important those costumes have been. And even for companions from different time periods, for the most part, even when they do wardrobe changes for those characters, they still try to make sure that they reflect that character's origins in their costume. And I think obviously some notable companions that stand out in the costume department for several obvious reasons. The Brigadier, Leela, Victoria Waterfield, Romana, the first Romana to be more specific, Rose, obviously, Amy Pond, and I could just sit here and give a list of other companions, and I've already bored Ben to sleep. So
No, you didn't.
yeah, Ben a second ago. Hold on, a second ago, Ben was doing this. So I can see Ben talk about Doctor Who. Luckily, I have my own show to do that, and I'm going. The next episode, I will literally be doing a ranking list of the best designs of aliens, which again, it furthers the connection towards costumes for Doctor Who. The fact that I was able to come up with about 30 different costumes and different alien designs speaks to the great costume design of the show.
No, I 100% agree with you on everything, and that's why it was number one on my list. And but of course, you can wax more poetically about Doctor Who than anyone else. So yeah. All right, so that brings us an end to the lists, and that means it's Ben. Your turn.
Yeah, he that's why he switched his brain off for a few minutes. He had to think of the next topic.
Top 5 cliffhangers from TV shows.
Ooh, interesting.
I think for the sake of simplicity, can we do one cliffhanger per show?
Yes,
Good.
because otherwise 50 will have a top 20 Doctor Who list.
I know.
Top 50. I mean, I can go.
And it can even be a cliffhanger to a show that never gets resolved. You gotta let it
You're putting Lois and
cancellation.
Clark on your list, aren't you?
No,
Oh.
but yeah. I like that. Top 5 cliffhangers to a TV show.
All right.
I mean, if about a week ago, Ben, we talked about cliffhanger to a show that never got resolved, and I'm still mad about it. So I don't know why you want to add that option to a show, but whatever. Okay.
Because some people just want to see the world burn.
What?
Especially floating heads.
Yeah.
All right.
Doom.
That brings an end to the show. So we got to wrap it up because I got to go to work. So 50, where can everybody find you?
You can find me, like I said, on this show, on the greatest show in the galaxy, on this channel on Monday. I'm having this guy right here, plus a couple of others to talk about some Doctor Who aliens. And I'm also every Saturday on this show. And I might finally do something with my channel that I have on my YouTube called 50 Hidden Geek. So stay tuned for that.
All right, Ben, what about you?
You guys can find me at my Twitter, Ben_radio, on my YouTube channel, The 14th of Kingdom. Every Monday on Jedi and Cat. Every Monday on. You know what? They follow me on that channel. I'm also here on the Northern Entertainment Group. Every Tuesday, I'll be right on tape, and every Saturday morning, right here on the Northern Countdown.
As for
Thank
myself,
you, Maura.
and you can, as for myself, you can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. You can find me on the shows mentioned by these gentlemen here. You can also find me Wednesday nights on the Squared Slice, the wrestling podcast here. And you can also find me Saturday afternoons over on the Bullocks of Wrestling over on the Let's Get Ready Network. So on behalf of myself, 50 and Ben, thank you very much for joining us. And don't forget to like, subscribe to the video, and let us know what some of your favorite costume designs throughout TV history is. And we will see you next week over on the Northern Countdown. Myself, 50 Costumes of Geek, and Modok.